North Carolina is a diverse state, running from the Appalachian Mountains all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. It's also home to some of the fiercest attacks on trans rights in the nation. It was in this climate that we arrived in Charlotte. Everybody, I want to introduce you to Bethany Corrigan from Transcend Charlotte. She is a big part of helping us organize this today, and I'm forever grateful. I know that you're organized, and we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, and we just talked with you for a second about Transcend Charlotte. But now that I'm down here and I'm meeting you all, I'm like, you all are doing fantastic stuff, and the community is so lucky that you are part of it.
And you know, I am a gender specialist, so I've actually worked in and around nonprofits for 14 years, and my specialty is integrating the best practices of gender equality into social service, social justice, and civic programs. And I've worked a lot all over the world. Actually, one of my first forays into really fighting at the government level, I was working in Zambia in 2016 and was able to successfully include some best practices around transgender healthcare into Zambian HIV guidelines for adolescents. And you know, I started out with 2 pages of inclusion, and I was allowed to include about a 3-sentence paragraph, but it made it in, and it was such a huge paramount win. And you know, when I was living in DC and relocated back home, which is the Charlotte area, and I was just looking for community. I was looking for people who were purpose-driven and had, you know, the similar mindset that I did, and you know, cared about the same issues. And I found Transcend, and I found Transcend just as a personal community.
Okay.
And I was able to join the board. I was so excited to do that. And then about a year ago, there was some opportunity to help with some of my specific skill set in terms of nonprofit development and programmatic expansion. So that's how I came to me. And then obviously Transcend is so grateful to have partners like Charlotte Black Pride, Gender Education Network, Time Out Youth. I'm sure y'all were mentioning quite a few of the local nonprofits in the area. P-Flag, Charlotte Pride. So we're just so grateful, you know, to have this family, because it all comes back to community for me, and I think for Transcend as well.
Transcend Charlotte then is, I'm going to say, y'all are lifesavers.
Oh gosh.
I mean, you are. You have to think about it, that the community, when a person comes out, if they come out as an adult, they have to go search.
And I mean, I think it's all done, and even what you were just saying a second ago around constant learning, you know, one of the tenets that we try to practice is being called in and consistently growing. We've certainly been called in by the community before. You know, we make assumptions, we move forward, we do what we think is best, we learn from it, and we adapt. You know, we provide mental health and social support services. And our organization was started by 2 phenomenal trans folks in the area, Shay and Trey. You can read about their stories on our website. And I think that is exactly their goal. You know, there was a very massive dearth of available services that were specific to trans adults, you know, because Time Out Youth existed, and we're so grateful for them. And, you know, they provide services for youth starting at age 10. But, you know, there are a lot of individuals who could transition later in life. I mean, individuals of our age, we didn't have the internet when we were kids. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have the Reddit forums where people talk about gender and pronouns. And, you know, I need better words to describe the person in me that I've been my whole life. And social support was harder to find. And, you know, things were, you know, on the DL, and you would, you know, have to find kind of secret communities, and not that it's exorbitantly easier nowadays, but it's just different. And so I think that the objective and the development of Transcend was to fill that gap and be there and say, hey, just because you're over the age of X doesn't mean you don't need support, you don't need people to talk things through with and try and fail and succeed and so on and so forth. And so we're really grateful, but you know, we're definitely trying. We have a very small staff, and as a small 501c3, the only reason we can exist is because of partnership. And not, you know, for 501c3s that exist, obviously the advocacy partners like Charlotte Black Pride, but even yesterday I thought I heard earlier, because I was listening to your conversation, y'all were talking about, you know, the press conference that's being planned on Wednesday, and the grassroots movements in Charlotte are really pivotal, and we learn so much. And there are certain circumstances where we have to say, okay, we're taking a step back, we're listening, and we're following your lead. And again, that can only be done through community and partnership. So, you know, we might not be there yet, but we're getting there.
I mean, it's a learning curve for all of us. I mean, that's the thing, and we're trying. And you brought up one thing that I do want to talk about very quickly that I wasn't thinking of, it's health care. Like in Massachusetts, it's mandated that insurance companies must provide transgender care for me. Makes me realize that makes me realize that you must have to search so hard to find trans-affirming health care then if it's not mandated through insurance companies. So are there some insurance companies that will cover health care here?
There are, but there are definitely not as many as there should be. I know for myself, when I got ready to have my surgery, my insurance didn't cover it, and that was one of the main things that I searched for. But after pushing my date back and pushing my date back and pushing my date back and waiting to see if things were going to change, I just finally got the decide to actually pay for it myself. And a lot of times that's what our community has to do. You have to make that decision. Am I going to put off a lot of things that I would like to do this year because this is something that I need to do for myself and I want to do? Or am I going to put it off another year? And a lot of times you have to sacrifice because it's something that you need to have done. And like you said, for our youth, this is something that they're just now coming into themselves. That's going to be something that they need, and that's why these laws and these things that they're trying to push, we've got to make sure that we stop them because it's mandatory, it's necessary. These are the resources that we need, and this is definitely something that our youth needs.
It is. I mean, I think back to it. I could have made a down payment on a home, but instead I put all of my money into the medical expenses of transition. And I know now that was because I lived in Tennessee and there was nothing. In Massachusetts, I have a friend that is battling her health insurance company that tries to refuse service, and it goes to the state attorney general, and the state attorney general contacted the insurance company and said, y'all can't do that here, and she got it all paid for.
Yeah, I would say in the state of North Carolina, it is, you know, Rel's personal experience is very reflective of most people. I mean, I have heard stories of individuals who work for large corporations, and those corporations have negotiated with insurance companies to have that as an included, you know, service. It's the same, you know, it's the similar battle in North Carolina with reproductive health rights in terms of, you know, a lot of things, and we don't have to get into that, but. You know, a lot that happens is because of community. You know, there's crowdsourcing that goes on. You know, people will put their Venmos out online, and some organizations are able to help push those things forward. In Charlotte, another partnership, and I just want to talk about partners all the time because if somebody only gets a 30-second snippet, you know, if they're in their home and they're not out yet and it's not safe and they can only see a portion, it's like I want to mention all of the resources that are available to
Makes
them
sense.
in that. So another great partner of ours is the Charlotte Transgender Healthcare Group. They are a recent nonprofit, but before that had existed for several years as a network collaborative of healthcare providers, and their common goal was to provide trans-affirming and trans-sensitive care. And so it's individuals, everything from voice therapy to surgeons to primary care. One of those physicians is actually on our board, Dr. Melissa Jones, and they provide some of the most inexpensive out-of-pocket hormone therapy in Charlotte. So, yeah, it really, you know, when the state doesn't show up, when the systems don't show up, the community shows up, and
That's that life-saving I was talking about right there. That is the perfect example of you all saving lives. You just pointed it out brilliantly, and that's what the community needs. I mean, we need health care and all of that to step up. It's what we need to happen. But until then, what you just said, folks, and what we'll do is we will put a list on the episode of all, if you can send us a list of all of these wonderful resources with contacts, we will put it on the show as well, because I think it's important for, like you said, these people to know they're not alone.